All right, it's time for our favorite program, Blend. So this is our blend session. We're going to combine all of the elements of balance, burn, and build with some surf-inspired movements, and we're really going to crank up the intensity with some intervals, along with some slow, focused strength training and balance. So we'll start with a 5-minute warm-up. We want to start by getting people acclimated to the board and warming up the lower body. So we're going to come up into sup stance. You can take it 1 foot at a time, feet right out to the edges, to the rails of the board. We're going to press through our heels and rock it side to side. So you're just explaining to everybody the motion of the board side to side here. Some of your beginners may be a little slower. You can have them bring their arms out, start engaging the core, bending the knees, getting used to the idea of this board being unstable throughout our entire workout. Now put the weight in our heels and we're going to squat back. So drop our hips and knees stay right over the ankles. Core stays engaged, chest elevated. We can bring our arms up forward to make it a little bit more challenging. So again, just encourage people. It's okay for the board to shake a little bit here. Some people, when they come down on the board and drop their hips, that board's going to shake, firing up all the stabilizers, and that's a good thing. So now let's turn into surf stance. So get used to pivoting on the board. We're going to carve. So we want to warm up the ankles here, get used to this motion. We're going to drop our hips down, carve, rock that board toes to heels, and come back up. So these are carve up downs, coming up and down. You can stay in just a low carve, just rocking the board, firing up the ankles. Depending on how advanced your class is, we're really trying to get our lower body warmed up here while getting used to the board. So killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Lower body, biggest muscles in the body, warm, as well as getting used to the board. Now drop it into some squats. So people have to take some time to get used to this motion, to understand that board's not going to throw them off. They just have to stay stable, centered, and they have to adjust and react when the board moves around. So now we're going to go laterally. Just get used to the motion from the front to the back of the board. From the nose to the tail, tail to the nose. So we're going to step out with 1 foot, feet come a little more than hip width, and we drop it into a squat. So we can take this slowly depending on the class, but you want to make sure we start getting the heart rate up. This is the fun class, so we're really going to get into it with a lot of our surf movements. Let's start out just making sure everybody understands how that board moves, how it feels to have our full body on top of the board, moving around side to side, front to back, engaging the core the entire time. So now bring it back, feet a little more than hip width apart, and slide them all the way out. So Mike's pretty tall. He's about 6'4". You can see he's taking up that entire mid and back pad. Some people may just be taking up the mid pad, not all the way to the back. We're going to stretch it out a tiny bit before we get going here, not overstretch, warming up. Before we get started with our first cardio interval. So we're going to kick off the class with 5 minutes, a little bit of a sprint pace in here. We'll start bringing it down. This is my favorite move. We call wave runners. Similar to a mountain climber, only we're on the board here. We call it a wave runner. We don't need to bring the ball of our foot up to tap the mat. We're just bringing the top of our foot. So bringing the knee into our chest. So start it slowly until everybody has the form. We're controlling this movement with our upper body and our core. And then we're just driving those knees forward and tapping with the top of our foot. So this becomes a really cardio-intensive move as we get going. It's really going to spike the heart rate up. We want to get a sprint going once everybody gets used to the form. Then you can have them hold a plank in between, come back to a slow pace, alternating left and right, bringing those knees all the way up towards the chest, and we can have them run it. Just keep everything controlled, trying to get the heart rate up to a sprint. We're also, of course, working our core, our upper body. We should feel it there in our shoulders, our triceps, trying to keep that board stable as we rock a little bit side to side. And now we're going to move on to our next move here in this cardio interval called hot sand. So about 30 seconds of wave runners, possibly a little more with those breaks in there. And then we'll bring it up to hot sand. So the floor is sand and we say it's really hot, so we're going to be quick on the feet. You can start slowly until everybody gets it. We go left, right. So up, up, down, down. Back to straddling the board. Tapping those toes really lightly on the floor, controlling this through our upper body and our core. We don't want to be flailing around. We want a very strong sense of control, but we want to move quickly into a sprint. So you can slow it down here, some intervals within this movement. Take it slow before we speed it back up again. And here we can be about 30 seconds to a minute, taking it slow and then speeding it up and trying to get everybody up to that sprint level just for even a few seconds. So the floor is hot sand, our feet are getting hot, we have to come back up onto the board and back down. And then we're going to move on to our third move, surf burpees. So this is the third and final move in our cardio interval before we repeat the circuit. It's similar to a burpee on the floor, only remember we have to stay nice and controlled. Place our body in the exact right spot to maintain balance. So drop it down into some squats after you pop up. Get the lower body more involved, and then hop it back and start in that paddle position, arms out, feet up. 2 feet come up forward into substance, into some squats. That board is moving around, wobbling side to side, engaging our core, our lower body, our upper body with this movement. This is really going to get the heart rate up. We're engaging almost every muscle in the body, and we're also doing it pretty quickly. So you can see Mike just demonstrated a beginner version of the burpee. 1 foot comes up at a time. So this is for people that are struggling a little bit with their balance but still want to try it. And we can take 1 foot back at a time as well. Remember, on that pop back, it's about controlling the lower body. We don't want to jump back too hard and hit our feet. We want to do it nice and controlled. We can still do it quickly, as long as our core is engaged and in control. So repeat that circuit 1 more time before you move on to your strength interval, 5 minutes here. So this, everybody should be breathing heavy from our cardio. We're going to slow it down. We're going to come up to some focused movements, some pulsing, engaging the lower body. We're dropping it into a surf squat nice and low. This is all about control. So challenge everybody to hold that squat and not let the board move at all. Now we can lift up 1 leg at a time. So this makes it more advanced. If you have beginners, they can hold it in that squat and they don't have to do this, but this makes it more advanced, engaging the obliques, the core, of course challenging our balance and our lower body, trying to stay perfectly centered in this spot. And then we can lift up and hold, kind of a stall here. So trying to control the movement of that board and not letting our foot drop back down until we're ready to place it back down. And then you're going to just drop into some squats. So this is all about control, focus, of course challenging all the muscles through the lower body, building lean muscle, strength, and stability. So in our strength intervals, we like to alternate between a lower body movement and an upper body movement, so we can really fatigue the lower body and then move on to the upper body without resting. So this goes back to our no rest principle of, instead of resting here, we'll just drop it right into an upper body movement once we finish this. So spend about a minute here in your squats, a minute to a minute and a half, 2 minutes. You can speed it up, bringing those legs up towards our elbows, and then again holding, trying to stabilize and hold. So now let's come down. We're going to do some lunges. So again, this is our lower body. We'll flip to the upper body next. So we're still trying to fatigue the lower body here. We're coming into that lunge position right up and down the board. And if some people are struggling, they can just hold the lunge position. They don't have to come up and down. They don't have to drop the knee straight all the way down. But you want to make sure that everybody's maintaining a straight line, the core is engaged, chest elevated, front knee is staying above the front ankle. Most of our weight here is in the front heel, and we're trying to stabilize that board through the center. So our legs should really be feeling it here. We have this whole strength interval of lower body, nice and slow and controlled and focused. And switch those feet. So some people may have to come down, grab the rails of the board and switch their feet, get back into position, weight through the front heel, front knee over the front heel. And you can walk around the room here, make sure everybody's in good form before they start with these slow lunges. So you can see we're doing 2 counts down, 2 counts up. This just makes it that much more challenging on the lower body. It's almost a pulse. You can really feel it firing all the muscles in our legs and also our core, trying to maintain stability here. So we want to repeat that again. That's our strength interval. We're just focused on the lower body before we switch and move on. And we're back in cardio. We're going to start with an upper body move here because, again, we don't want to totally fatigue the lower body, so we're not able to get the most out of it. We're back to our sprint. So that was slow, focused, strength training, building muscle through the lower body. Now we're back at our cardio. So get those arms going, start to warm it up. Looking forward, core engaged, shoulders retracted back, and we can start to sprint with that paddle, really get the heart rate up, and then we're going to explode up to a plank. So this is an explosive motion up. We can hold the plank for a couple seconds before we come back down, reach right into our paddle. Breathe while we're here, controlling it. You can get those feet kicking around and come back to your plank. So you can make this as high intensity and fun as you want. Just going 1, 2, 3, 4, and explode right up to plank, right from your paddle, and hold it. So it's a mixture between fast twitch, explosive movement, and holds as well, because you want to hold that isometric plank when you come up for a few seconds. Take a breather, but still working the core. We can rock the board a little side to side, but we really want to get the competition going in the room. Just everybody sprint. We're all racing each other, and then we come up to a plank and hold it. It's high energy. Now let's move on to our second move in the cardio interval here, cross wave runner. So start it slow. just like a wave runner, only we're coming across, knees across the body, trying to go towards that outer elbow. And then we can speed it up. So look how this makes the board move around. This is one of the coolest moves you can do on this board. Bringing the knee across the opposite elbow, really engaging the core, the obliques, our sides, as that board tips side to side, working the upper body and the core, and also getting the energy up, getting the heart rate up. So another move here, our third one in this cardio interval, we call Hawaiian get-ups. Some of you, I'm sure, know how to do a Turkish get-up. This is very similar. We call it Hawaiian because we think it's more fun. So we're going to bring our feet in towards our butt, and we're going to step up, explode up, and then some squats when you get up there. So this is going to be a challenge for a lot of people when they try it for the first time. Take it slowly. Just make sure they're far enough back on the board that they can bring their feet in, place them on the mid pad, and push up. This requires a lot of balance, dynamic power through the lower body, stability, also flexibility, getting those feet in close so we can stand up. So you can have the advanced lay all the way down in a straight line and then bring everything up in one explosive motion. And into those squats once we get up there, trying to keep the pace up because this is our cardio interval. And then what we like to do is we sequence it all together once we're done. So you can have them just practice this motion coming up and down. And you can do 2 rounds of the 3 movements. So starting with that paddle to plank, into our cross wave runners, into our Hawaiian get-ups with squats, and then we like to sequence it all together so we do just one of each. So paddling, bringing it up to plank, coming right into our cross wave runners, and then flipping over and coming right into our Hawaiian get-up with a squat. So this is a fun way to sequence the 3 movements together. Do your paddle to plank once, do your cross wave runners for about 15 seconds, and then do a Hawaiian get-up with a few squats. And you can repeat this over and over, trying to build the speed as we go. Of course, stressing focus and control as we're doing it, making sure anybody who's sweating a lot is wiping off their hands with a towel, wiping off their board, but it's a cool way to put it all together once you've practiced all the movements. So we went from our paddle to plank into our cross wave runners and then right into our Hawaiian get-ups with squats. And this is really going to rev up that heart rate. And remember to remind people that it's only 5 minutes, so they really can push it, and then we're going to slow it down again for our strength interval. So here comes our strength interval, 5 minutes. This time we're alternating between the upper body and the lower body within our strength interval. So we're going to start with push-ups. Our shoulders, our triceps should really be feeling it already. So if some people need to stay on the knees to have proper form, keeping the core engaged and back flat, that's great. They're still going to get work in the triceps. That board is shifting and moving around, forcing us to engage every muscle in the upper body, our chest, our core, of course, stabilizers around the joints. And we can also then have people that are a little bit more advanced come up to their feet. Elbows come back here. Remember, tricep push-ups on the board. So elbows come back and then rotate in, gripping the sides of the board. Hands rotated out about 45 degrees. Then we're going to come up for our second move in the strength interval. Simulated sup. So this is strength. So this isn't necessarily meant to be fast. It's meant to be controlled. That board is moving around, causing us to engage all the muscles in our lower body. Balance here, keeping our face up, our head up, looking forward, engaging the core, chest elevated, hips back, good form, really nice and slow and controlled movements across the core. And then we'll bring it back down for some push-ups. So your beginners are on the knees, your more advanced are on the toes, and your most advanced are single foot. So just like Mike here, 1 foot at a time. This is going to throw off the stability of that board. It's going to make it that much more challenging in the upper body and the core to stabilize. Let's bring it back up. So see, we're alternating here between the push-ups and the simulated sup. So we can stay in the simulated sup for about 30 seconds. We can do about 10 push-ups at a time, alternating back and forth between the two for our strength interval. Remember, taking it nice and slow and controlled and focused for these movements. It's all about being in good form, and that's where people are really going to feel it and they're going to see the results. So let's come back down for some push-ups. You can be on the knees, on the toes, single foot, up to you. Alternating between this upper body movement and our lower body on the simulated sup. So bring it back up. Now we're going to come into a lunge stance for this one. So we're making it progressively a little bit more challenging. So drop it into a lunge, working the lower body, also across the core here with our simulated sup, dropping that back knee as we paddle. Remember, trying to look forward, keeping the chest elevated, core engaged. Front knee over that front ankle, and then we can switch and do the other side. So you can do a fast switch like Mike, which is very challenging, or have everybody just slowly step into a switch. So we alternated push-ups to simulated sup, and we threw in a lunge stance for the simulated sup for a variation. Moving on to our core interval. So with that strength interval, you can repeat between push-ups and simulated sup multiple times for your 5 minutes, trying to make sure it's about focused strength training until we move on to our core. So we're flipped over here. This whole segment we're going to be flipped over on the board. We've been doing a lot with the shoulders, the upper body, so let's take the pressure off there. Flip over for some scissor kicks. So we make big scissors, medium scissors, and then little scissors. So this keeps the variety in there, so you're not constantly doing the same thing. It just keeps us mentally engaged, going from large scissors, medium scissors, and then the very controlled small scissors here, keeping it low to the board. So lower back press down here the entire time. Very important. We can hold the rails of the board to make it a little easier, or take our hands off, put them behind our head to make it a little harder. Now let's come into a jackknife. So bringing opposite arm up across the body to opposite leg. Mike's doing the advanced version here, no hands on the board. Now you can also grab one hand on the rail and then bring the opposite hand up and across to the opposite foot. And that's going to make it a little bit more stable for you. So you see he's gripping the board with his left hand. Right hand is coming across to left foot. And then you can do a couple reps on each side and switch. So this is more beginner. It's going to stabilize that board. It's still very, very challenging. We're going to feel this throughout our entire core. Definitely going to see what work we've been doing right after class. We'll feel it and see it in the core and the obliques. This is something all of our clients always notice. Now the advanced version, no hands on the board, trying to maintain stability. So even when if you can't even do the lift, just laying there and trying to stabilize this board side to side is an ab workout for sure. So encourage your clients that if they can't do it as well as you can right off the bat, just take their time, because they're definitely getting something out of it, just laying there and trying to stabilize and move. So our third move here in this core interval, we call starfish crunches. So we call them that because we look like a starfish. We have our arms and legs out to the side, and then we slowly roll up into a nice controlled ball. So again, this move working the entire core. So this is a really challenging core interval. You can give a little bit of rest between each if you want, but in our blend session, we're really focused on pumping up the tempo. So if people need to rest on their own, that's okay. We suggest that you keep going through everything. Just make it fun and interesting by alternating between movements, and then you can repeat this whole sequence again. So we went with our scissor kicks, large, medium, small. Then we went into our jackknife, either beginner version, arms on the rail, or advanced, no arms on the rail. And then we went to our starfish crunches, and then repeat the whole thing. So now, the finale, we're going into our surf session. So we have 8 minutes here. This may only be 5 minutes if you took a little extra time in previous sections of the class. This may be a little bit longer if this is something you want to stress, but it can be really fun, and you can bring as much of your personality and energy into it as you possibly can, and that way people will have a really good time. They've just been through all the work of class, and you say, we're done working, it's time to go surfing. So we're done working out, let's have some fun, let's surf. So we bring the story into it. Right now we're paddling out, we're paddling into the waves, and we're duck diving under the waves. So you can do this in your own intervals, your own speed and tempo, but we like to stress that surfing is an interval sport. It goes from fast twitch sprints in explosive movements with the pop-up, and then there's also some slower endurance-based movements. So we're still paddling out, we're still duck diving under waves. We can paddle from the knees, we can paddle down in paddle position and duck dive under the waves. And then once we've done a few of those, we say, all right, we've made it out. So we paddled out, we dove under a bunch of big waves, we made it out past the break. We're going to sit here, straddle the board, rock it side to side. We're waiting for the waves to come. So there's no big waves coming in. Let's just wait for some good ones. We say while we're waiting, we do some ab work. So let's do some crunches. You can be creative with a different ab movement if you want, but we're trying to keep the intensity up. We say there's no good waves coming to catch right now, so let's hang out. Let's do some crunches and some ab work while we're on the board out here. So controlling the body, keeping everything centered. And then when you're ready, you can be as unpredictable as you want. Keep it fun. Just say, all right, here comes the waves. Everybody get ready. So let's drop down onto our stomachs. In paddle position, let's sprint. We can look over our right shoulder, get ready for the wave, and as soon as it's coming, you say go, pop up. Everybody pops up and drop it right into some squats. So your beginners might take these pop-ups slowly, 1 foot at a time. That's okay. Everybody else is going speedy through it, but still controlled. And now let's catch a wave on the other side. So we drop right back down, we sprint, we go for it, look over the left, and we pop it up. Other direction. So we want to keep that balance. Now we can walk the board here. Hang our heel forward, hang our toe back, a little bit of balance, stability here. Our heart rate should be up, breathing heavy. So that's the full surf session, and we repeat it a couple times. We run down the beach, we dive on the board, we paddle out, we duck dive. once we're out there, we're waiting for waves, we're doing some crunches. When the waves start rolling in, we go right onto our stomachs, we sprint paddle, we pop up, we do that on both sides, and then we can do some fun balance movements or squats on the board. So once you've repeated that a couple times, we're ready for our cool down. And everybody should be smiling, sweating, having fun. Let's just take the tempo down a notch, and our goal here is to slow the breathing, stretch it out a little bit, and get some fun, balanced, focused movements in. So that was a really high tempo, high intensity, core focused, surf inspired class. Some strength in there, some cardio obviously, some sprints. So let's focus on flexibility, stretching, breathing, balance. And if you develop your own sort of signature cool down, you can use it for every session. We like to mix it up a little bit to give you guys some more material. So Mike's going to demonstrate a few different stretches here. You can see his right elbow is on the inside of his right knee, and he's pushing out, stretching his inner thigh, staying balanced on the board. And you can hold these stretches for about 30 seconds, 20 to 30 seconds at a time. Switch feet. Everybody should feel much more confident on the board now. So this is something for an instructor, for a SURFSET trainer to really point out is awesome. To say to your clients, look how much more stable you are now than you were when you started. It's amazing because they're trembling and they're tired, but they're still much more confident and much more stable on the board after just 40 minutes. So this one Mike's doing now is definitely challenging. We call this a toe curl, so bringing that toe all the way under, reaching it forward and grabbing it and stretching. Now he's coming back into a lunge, stretching it out a little bit in the hip flexor here, leaning forward, arms forward, focusing on that balance, reaching up, nice long lean torso, looking towards the ceiling. And you can hold all of these movements for much longer than he is. He just wants to demonstrate these to you. Bring that toe forward again. So this is that toe curl, very challenging move. This might be something you leave to the end as a challenge move, but it's a great balance focused exercise. Now bring that foot back. He's dropping it down into his lunge. Make sure we're doing both sides of everything. Stretching it out. And just remind everybody of all the hard work they did today. Tell them we finally made it back into the beach. We can rest, we can relax. That was an awesome, awesome session. Everybody had a great time and they learned a lot and really worked their entire body.